Benadryl. So for the latest and powerful relief that's just as effective at hour 24 as at hour 1, be wise all. Take Zysol.
Welcome back. Oil on the move. Crude prices rising over supply concerns. Crude oil now up at 1.25%, 68.65. Reports say that there are signs that U.S. sanctions on Iran are already reducing supplies. Joining us now to talk more about that, the Schork Report publisher, Stephen Schork. Good to see you, Stephen. What's your take on where oil is right now and whether or not we, in fact, are seeing disruptions?
Globally, perhaps, but certainly not here, Maria, in the United States. We are looking at a rash of weekly updates from the Department of Energy that are showing some of the most bearish reports that I've seen in a very long time. We have to keep in mind that, yes, there could be potentially some disruptions, but at the end of the day, there's still a considerable amount of oil hitting the market. It is just the market is figuring out how to reshuffle this oil in given market areas, i.e. who is and who is not going to no longer buy Iranian oil. So at this point, we're looking at the end of the season, the Labor Day holiday. Crude oil demand is very strong. In fact, it is record strong now. But over the next month, next 2 months, we're going to see a precipitous drop in demand for oil as refineries go into their fall maintenance season and as consumers stop driving to the Poconos and out to the Jersey Shore, so i.e. the end of the holiday season.
Well, you got the demand side of the story, but then there's the supply, a major milestone. For the first time ever, Texas exported more oil than imported. Pretty big stuff here in terms of the U.S.'s ability to churn out oil.
Right, and that just really, Maria, underscores the resiliency of this market. This is a market that has had to endure a considerable amount of challenges this summer. First and foremost, as we just referenced, geopolitics, the situation of Iran, of course, the decrepit state that is Venezuela. We had some supply concerns with Libya. We also had a situation up in Canada, Maria, which I don't think has gotten a lot of fanfare, but we had a major outage at a processing plant, oil processing plant up in Calgary. Therefore, we lost a significant amount of imports coming in from Canada. And of course, as you just mentioned, Texas. Now, back in May, Texas, the refinery epicenter of the United States, was shipping out 500,000 barrels a day more oil than we were taking in. And yet the consumer this year, Maria, and remember, demand was record strong this summer. The consumer was largely unaffected. According to AAA, since the 4th of July, gasoline prices have averaged $2.86.
Wow.
When you look at gasoline prices over the last 5 years, adjusted for inflation, the price is $3.08. So we received a 7% discount this summer in spite of record demand and series of challenges to the supply situation. So quite a resilient market indeed.
Gary.
Stephen, Gary here in New York. A question you do mention, and I think you just mentioned it, that demand for crude oil has never been higher. Macro question, though. If we ever mass adopted electric vehicles, what would that do to oil demand?
Well, and that's just it. It's an excellent question, Gary, and I think this largely played into why Saudi Aramco walked away from the IPO, because how do you value a company that's in an industry where the decades-long demand functions no longer exist? Right. And it's called disruptive technology for a reason, because now with EVs and hybrids, I now have the ability to greatly reduce my consumption of oil. And in the Schork household, we have an electric plug-in, and I've cut my gasoline consumption by 80% over the last year. Or I could go full EV and cut my demand for crude oil altogether. So it's absolutely a game changer at this point. Some of us in the industry still have our heads buried in the sand, but clearly in the decades ahead, especially when this younger generation comes in, it's going to be much more inclined to move to all electric. So certainly we are in a tremendous flux right now, and hence why oil companies, U.S.-based oil companies, are now changing the game plans. 10 years ago, a major oil company called itself an oil company. It now considers itself an energy company because they see the writing on the wall as we shift from oil to a more natural gas-fired economy.
Yeah, makes sense. All right.
No, I was just going to say, and those electric motors give you some great torque, Stephen Schork. No rhyme intended, actually. I drive a plug-in hybrid, so. and it rocks.
Yeah.
You love it.
I love it.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. I'm getting a blended range of 55 miles to the gallon. It's an SUV. How can you argue with that?
All right, Stephen, great to see you. Thanks so much. Stephen Schork joining
Thanks,
us there.
Maria.
Coming up, appealing to millennials, why acronyms like NBD or LOL could soon be on your laundry detergent. That's coming up. Then terminated by text, why an employee claims she was fired for being pregnant later this hour. Stay with us.